All right, welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is Monday, April 6th, 2020. Thank you for being here. It's Gematria School Lesson number 2. Last week, we really went over the basics of Gematria, computing words into numbers. We talked about the 4-base ciphers. We also talked about Jewish Gematria. And this week, what we're going to focus on is where Gematria meets date numerology. And in just a moment, we'll look at this story right here, because obviously there's going to be some gems in it. On the front lines, beauty queen hangs up her crown to return to work as a doctor. And coronavirus, corona means crown. Obviously, there's something going on here, so we'll look at this story. And with regards to today's lesson, we can also talk about the UK Prime Minister. This beauty queen winner's from the UK as well, so big UK focus today. But again, last week we covered Gematria. Today we're going to talk about date numerology and how they come together. As we'll get to in a moment, beauty queen equals 46 in what we consider the most pure cipher. Today's date, April 6th, written 4-6. But last week, after our lesson concluded, one of the top stories the day after, so last Tuesday, was this story right here. Man best known for walking nearly every block of New York dies of coronavirus. And out of all the examples of the last week, and there were many, this was probably the best example to really understand the significance of date numerology and how it matches up with Gematria. So we're going to go back and look at this story because it's great from a teaching perspective. So as you know, last week we talked a lot about the number 74. And actually, before I go further with this week's lesson, one thing I meant to tell you last week when we were talking about 74, I forgot. And if any of you have taken the time to go out and read Manly P. Hall, Manly P. Hall talks about how the secret society that established America, they referred to themselves as the Order of the Quest. And I believe I forgot to show you last week that Order of the Quest has that Gematria of 74. And when I first read that in Manly P. Hall, I didn't know reverse Gematria yet because he hadn't revealed it in his book. I knew about the significance of 74, but when I learned reverse, it made me grin. I said, oh, look at that. Order of the Quest was a 74 as well all along. Just like George Washington's 74 in that cipher. Again, Manly P. Hall says this nation was founded by a secret society that wanted to bring about a one-world democracy based in philosophy and truth and justice. It sounds nice. I don't know if that really was the plan, but certainly we've gotten off that path. So anyhow, last week, Tuesday, day after lesson number 1, we got this story. The death of a 74-year-old Jewish man, and they said he died from coronavirus. And the news came March 31st, Tuesday. So right away, what stood out is the date numerology for March 31st, 2020. One of the paths, because there are multiple paths, they'll all break down to the same key digit, but in a very straightforward path, where you add the day plus the month whole, 3 plus 31, 34, plus the year in 2 parts, 20 plus 20, 74. So 3 plus 31 plus 20 plus 20 is 74. That's one of the paths. And then if you wanted to take it further, 74 would be 7 plus 4, which is 11, the master number. And when you hit a master number, which is 11 or 22, you do not have to reduce any further. You could, though. 11 reduced further would be 1 plus 1 is 2. But this is what you'll see again and again when you learn the date numerology and the Gematria. You'll see how the stories that are presented to you on the day they are, you get details that sync with the date numerology. Now, the thing about date numerology is there's a few things you really want to remember. So we're going to go over the different date numerology paths, how to break them down. And then we'll talk about just looking at the date in terms of if it has a prime number relationship. So for example, this news broke on March 31st. He had died reportedly Saturday, but everyone reported the story on March 31st. 331, like 3/31. And 3/31, if you look at it as a number, it's like 331, the 67th prime number. Wuhan is 67. We're seeing a lot of 67 in these rituals. Boris Johnson, for example, equals 67, as we've talked about before, and as we'll talk about again. Today, it's 74 days from Boris Johnson's upcoming birthday, and he's one of the big stories. Boris Johnson's in the ICU today. ICU happens to equal 33. Last week we talked about how they like to bring 33 and 74 together. So Boris Johnson's riddle today, 74 days from his birthday, in the 33 location. Chalk it up as another one. But anyhow, the date numerology. You have to learn to break down the numbers, which is what we'll do in this lesson. You have to learn to look at the numbers just on the surface, like 3/31 is 331, the 67th prime number. And remember, if you don't know if a number's prime, you can check easily on Derek's website, gematriair.com. You just go to Tools, Number Properties, and sometimes his website's not working, but when it is, you just type in the number, click Enter, and then it'll give you information. And normally what you're looking for is if it's a prime number. Triangular numbers, Fibonacci numbers, we'll talk about all these things tonight. So, looking at the numbers on the surface, of course, March 31st, it can also be written 31/3, like 313, which also happens to be a prime number. 313 is the 65th prime number. And coming back to the story of this 74-year-old man who was reported, his death was reported on this 74 date numerology. They mentioned that he was from Switzerland. He was born in Switzerland. And, you know, if you've been following the work we've been doing, we've been talking a lot about Switzerland and the coronavirus, because that's where the banks are, and the World Health Organization. By the way, tomorrow, April 7th, tomorrow will be the World Health Organization's birthday. But, again, everything about this story being released on this date for this specific man, again, it all synced up. The gematria of the words involved and the date numerology. And this is what you're going to notice every single day when you learn this. The stories that are presented on the days they are, it's for a reason. The date matches the value of the keywords. So again, in this story, you have a 74-year-old Jewish man. We know Jewish equals 74 in Gematria. They report his death on the 74 date numerology. They waited until 3 days after his death to report this. And they talk about how he walked New York City, which is also a city that's located on the 74th meridian. They reported this on the 88th day of the year. That's another thing to keep in mind with dates. Or excuse me, he died on the 88th day of the year, but they reported it on the 74 date numerology. He died March 28th, so that's another thing to keep in mind with dates. The count of the year, so March 28th, the 88th day of the year, Jewish is 74 forwards, 88 reverse. His name in Gematria is 88. And then he died from Wuhan coronavirus, according to the story, and he was from Switzerland. So again, we'll go over all of this more. I'm just trying to give you a little introduction into the different ways you need to look at the dates to see all of the number riddles that are involved. There's kind of a checklist that you want to run through. What day of the year am I on? How many days are left in the year? What are our date numerology paths? And then just looking straight on at the date, is there just something that's just so surface level? For example, Beauty Queen hangs up her crown to work as a doctor. And they give you the two words right there at the beginning. Beauty Queen, what's that equal? 46 in our most pure cipher. And what's today, the day of this story? It is April 6th, 4-6. Corona means crown. A beauty queen hangs up her crown to help fight the coronavirus. And then keep in mind, just yesterday, the Queen of England, because this woman's the beauty queen. She was Miss England last year in 2019. You know, this comes one day after the Queen's rare address to the nation. So, again, you just learn the knowledge. You learn how to apply it. You realize it's very surface level. And you just see right through what's being presented to you day after day. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the screen view for a moment so that we're going to work on date numerology, but I have to put you on a different screen to show you what I want to show you here. So let me make sure that's showing up. Okay. Okay, yeah, I think we're good. Okay, so date numerology. We'll do today's date to practice, and then I'm going to tell you something about where things change once you get to the double-digit day of the month. So today is April 6th, 2020. So the first thing we would want to do is we would want to check, the stats for April 6th. And I mean, what day in the year is it, and how many days are left. So remember, it's a leap year. So April 6th in non-leap years is the 96th day of the year. I think it's truly the 97th day of the year because it's a leap year. But when you're in leap years, I think it's good to look at both numbers, what day it actually is for the year, also what day it typically is, because I think both matter in leap years. In the time I've been doing this, remember, I started in 2013, so in the time I've been actively doing this every single day, this is only the second time there's been a leap year. 2016 was the first time I got to observe, and now we're in the beginning of 2020. And just to come back to this story about the Indian woman for a second, I started to look at this, just barely, and her name, Basha Mukherjee, probably saying it wrong, but I noticed right away that her surname, well, here, I'll just show you this. I actually looked her up. She's born in 96, right? Her birthday's in 1996. I couldn't find her actual date of birth, but everything says she's born in 96. Somehow she's already a doctor at age 24. Pretty amazing. And a beauty pageant winner. But anyhow, she's born in 96, and then her surname I also noticed. Let me just type in Freemason first, and then I'm going to put in her surname. Notice her surname is the exact same as Freemason in every cipher, but just with the most simple cipher, simple English Gematria. Her name is 96. And technically this year, April 6th is the 97th day of the year, but it's typically the 96th day. So again, that's why I think in leap years it might be important to look at both days and consider both days, because I notice these kinds of observations pretty much every single day when I'm doing my decoding. I'm like, okay, if it wasn't a leap year, this might make even more sense today. But again, she's a beauty queen, 4-6 like we covered. Her surname 96 is typically the 96th day of the year. But again, this is why you want to look at the count of the day of the year. So we're going to write down in our information and numbers that are specific to this day, because you're going to see how all throughout the day those numbers show up in the news stories you look at. It's very often that CNN's top 3 stories, because they'll always have 3 graphics for their 3 stories, that all 3 of those stories will share a commonality and oftentimes the exact same number with the date. So we'd write down April 6th, 96th day of year, 97th in leap year, which we're in, leaving 296. Is that right, what it is? No, I think it's 269. Don't want to get, leaving 269 days left in the year. It's easy to get dyslexic. Leaving 269 days left in the year. So, okay, so that's the first thing that we really want to know about the date, just what's there right there on the surface level. And then remind yourself that April 6th can be written 4/6 or 6/4, depending on where you are in the world, depends on which way you write it. But always, both ways, you'll see that those numbers show up in the riddles with the news stories. Again, just like how beauty pageant's 46. Now, the next thing to do for a date is you have to know your date numerology methods. So I always write them out in this order. Remember, the day plus the month plus the year in 2 parts. So 4 plus 6 plus 20 plus 20. So 50. And it's good to double check your math in your head. Sometimes it's easy to make a mistake. I do it all the time. Now the next path would be 4 plus 6 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 0. And that is 14. And realize all of your date numerologies, they should all break down to the same single digit if you're using all of the numbers in the date. So 50 in numerology is 5 plus 0 is 5. 14 is 1 plus 4 is 5. So you're making sure that all of your date numerologies subtract to the same value. And then in the abbreviated method, which is where you just leave off the first part of the year, so you write 4, 6, 20. In that method, 4 plus 6 plus 20, it's not going to have the same numerology value as these ones because you're leaving out part of the number. But I'd also keep track of that. It's not as significant as these first two, the 50 and the 14. They're more important. But for example, those of you who followed me for a long time, you know how when the date numerology comes up with the 64 and 44, that's always a fateful day for celebrities. So for example, that date this month will be 4/20, April 20th, 2020. And again, that'll have the 64 date numerology with our most common method, and with the abbreviated method, it'll be 44. And the reason it's always so fateful is because the word kill with the alphabetic order is 44, and with the reverse alphabetic order is 64. And I first caught on to it the day Dick Gregory died, the comedian. Dick Gregory died on one of these 44-64 dates. And I'd actually been noticing it, but then when it happened with Dick Gregory, I was like, wait a minute, I think this goes on every single month. And every month I've been just saying, circle this date next month, watch. And it's been, boom, the same thing, the same thing. And let me go back to when Dick Gregory died. Dick Gregory died August 19th, 2017. So 8 plus 19 was 27, plus 20 was 47, plus 17 more was 64. And then if you did it the abbreviated way, 8 plus 19 plus 17, it's 44. And since then, we've noticed this riddle with comedians as well. It's been more than just Dick Gregory, because look at how the word comedian also has gematria of 64 and 44, like kill. 44, 64. So I'm going to come back to this date of April 22nd, or excuse me, April 20th, 2020. And in light of that being the, the non-official marijuana holiday, don't be surprised if somebody passes on April 20th who's a celebrity that's affiliated with the green leaf. But there's one other date numerology path that I wasn't able to show you with the April 6th, 2020 date, and that's because this date numerology path doesn't become available until you're on a day of the year that's a double-digit day. And this path is known as the life lesson number. It's definitely one you want to know. And it's not much different than the other two that we learned. You add the day plus the month whole, but then you add the year digit for digit. So 4/20/2020 becomes 4 plus 20 is 24, but then you add 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 0. So essentially you add 4 more. So 4 plus 20 is 24, plus 2 more is 26, plus 2 more is 28. And then the other one on April 20th, 2020 is just adding everything as a single digit. And that's considered the most pure date numerology path. Just adding everything as a single digit number. So 4 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 in this case. And always, these three methods, they will always reduce to the exact same single digit. If they're not reducing to the same single digit, that means you made a mistake in your math somewhere. So, for example, 64 in numerology is 6 plus 4 is 10. 10 is 1 plus 0 is 1. They say people that have a numerology that breaks down to 1 are leaders. So, plenty of numerology books out there. The life lesson path is 28. It also breaks down to 2 plus 8 is 10, 1 plus 0 is 1, and then what's considered the most pure method, so everything is a single digit, it breaks down to 10, and again, 1 plus 0 is 1. So they all break down to 1, so we know what we did our math correctly. And then with that abbreviated method, which is the least significant, but still worth taking into account, the date numerology is a different number because, again, you're not adding the full value of the date. You left out the first section of the year, but again, it's definitely still relevant, so don't ignore it. Okay, so for our date, again, we have to consider what day of the year we're on, how many days remain, and something I should say about that is like, for example, on the 67th day of this year, which was March 17th, so I'm going to write this, is the day count a prime number? That's one other thing to consider when you're counting your days. So like, for example, the 97th day of the year is prime. 97 is the 25th prime number. So today we would say, yes, 97 is the 25th prime number. So we do have a prime count today. Is 269 a prime number? I don't even remember all of my prime numbers. So again, if you're not sure, tools, number properties, you can punch it in. I don't think 200, it is actually. 269 is the 57th prime. Okay. So 269 is the 57th prime, and look at this. There's this big focus on England today. You got Miss England, the beauty pageant winner. You got Boris Johnson. Okay. So, yes, 269 is the 57th prime. So actually today's day has a prime number count in the actual day of the year and the days remaining in the year. And again, if you do this full analysis each day before you start your decodes, you'll see the numbers that you should really be looking out for. And you'll notice day after day, the headlines when you decode, they're going to be the numbers that you started with, gathering them from your date numerology. So, okay, day count and days remaining, check. How to do our date numerology, check. And the next thing to consider would be just what's right on the surface. April 6th can be written 4/6 or 6/4. Just like how a second ago we looked at the Beauty Queen story, and Beauty Queen is 46. And again, her name equaled 96, and she was born in 96, and today's typically the 96th day of the year. Okay, so that is pretty much it for your date numerology. And if it seems like a lot, once you get in the habit, it's not. You know, this is something that you can calculate out and have ready to go in 5 minutes tops. And it sets you up with your foundation for doing your calculations for the day. So the only other thing to consider is that when you're decoding your stories, the only other number count to think about is measuring from people's birthdays. For example, we can't do it with the beauty pageant because her birthday's not out there. But Boris Johnson, you know, his birthday's out there. Why are we hearing about Boris today? The man at 10 Downing Street in London. Again, I've already done it for you. You're welcome to verify it. But today is 74 days from his upcoming birthday, which, if I'm not mistaken, is June 19th. And again, let me type in birthday here. Yeah, his birthday is June 19th, 5 days after Trump's. So this is synced up with his 56th birthday, this whole coronavirus thing he's having right now. We know about coronavirus in 56. But again, so many major rituals in history, they're done around the number 74, just like how I told you last week. If there's a number to really know about, 74 is probably the one. And a good way to measure between dates is if you just type in date duration calculator, this site should pull up days between two dates. Usually you can just click today because typically you'll be looking at today's news. Then you would just plug in the date of what you're measuring to, and you can see from today's day to Boris Johnson's upcoming birthday is 74 days. And again, We should remember our list from last week, just using the alphabetic order. English 74, Gematria 74, Occult 74, Jewish 74, Masonic 74, London 74. Modern Freemasonry began in London. This number is so significant. And remember, out of the 50 states, only one of the 50 states sums to 74. It's the 33rd state, Oregon. And remember, Masonic 74, Masonry's 33 in the most pure cipher. They like to put these numbers together a lot. Today's story is that he's in the ICU, where with the alphabetic order, it's 33. So I'd call that par for the course. And whenever you're measuring from somebody's birthday, I always think it's good practice to measure to the upcoming birthday, which we just did, and always from the last birthday. And so his last birthday was June 19th, 2019. And when you're on this website, there's this checkbox to include the end date. If we do that, you'll see that this will become 293 days. And what the difference is before we checked the box, we were saying that today is 292 days after his birthday. But if in that count, we're not counting the day of his birthday. So his birthday is his first day of his age. To today is his 293rd day of his age. So that's the span of days. Both numbers are always relevant, and 293 makes sense in this ritual because they're saying, wow, look at how serious this is. The UK could possibly lose their prime minister because of the coronavirus pandemic. And we've seen this number. We saw it in a big way on March 29th. But coronavirus pandemic, when you run the alphabetic order in reverse, is 293. So, again, by looking at Boris Johnson's last birthday and how this is his 293rd day of his age, and his condition worsened today, and now he's in the ICU, and then you see it's 74 days to his upcoming birthday. Don't forget that they did the Event 201 simulation on October 18th, the coronavirus outbreak simulation, October 18th, the day leaving 74 days left in the year, and that was the same day the military Wuhan games began. And just remember, 74 is always this number that shows up in really big rituals, like the establishment of this nation. So, again, our day numbers. If you want to get serious about your decoding, always go through these steps each day. Start with the date. Make sure you do a thorough job. You know what day of the year it is. How many days are remaining? Are those numbers prime? If they are, jot down what the prime numbers are because they'll probably be relevant to the headlines. Again, we just talked about how today leaves 269 days left in the year, which is the 57th prime number. England is 57. We know that's a special number to the Scottish Rite too. But England's obviously front and center. Half the top stories today on CNN have to do with the UK, and the biggest of all is their prime minister. Whoops, hit the wrong button. Okay, so once you have that, again, then you have to do your date numerology breakdown so you're aware of what your numbers are for the day. And honestly, like if you had to rank these things in terms of importance, your date numerology, it's important, but it's probably the least important in terms of what you're going to see from day to day in terms of what they're putting in the headlines. Oftentimes it will be the day count of the year, and oftentimes it'll just be the most straightforward thing, like 4664, 4664. Again, just like how the Miss England beauty pageant winner, Beauty Queen 46. So, but still, you definitely want to do your date numerology too, because again, it was just like the story we began with, the example from the day after the lesson, you know, the 74-year-old man dead on the 74 date numerology. But again, you could see how in this story, everything was important. He was a Jewish man, and he died on the 88th day of the year, but they saved the news for the 74 date numerology. So again, we're covering all the things here. We're covering the date numerology. We're covering the day count of the year. We're covering the way the date looks with its prime number relationships. relates to his cause of death, and it also relates to where he was from, Switzerland. So that's why if you're thorough and you're aware of all of your numbers, you'll do your best decoding because you know exactly what to look for and you're putting more of the pieces of the puzzle together. So, but if it seems overwhelming to make all those calculations and to keep all those numbers straight, and you just want to keep it more simple, again, you'll be able to do good work if you just pay attention to the day count of the year and how many days are remaining, and just thinking about, okay, today's April 6th, so that's like 46, but it could also be written 6-4, like 64. You might say that's half-assing it, but if you're just trying to get your feet wet and get in the groove of things, you'll still be able to do good work from there. So, okay, now the next thing I want to talk about are prime numbers, triangular numbers, and Fibonacci numbers. And if Derek's website is ever not working, gematrinator.com, where you go to tools and number properties, just realize all of this data is being pulled from a different website called numberempire.com. Number Empire. So this website, very easy to use. You just scroll down the page. You'll see where it says number properties, and you can just enter that number in here. So I'm going to type in the number 233. And I'm choosing this number for a reason, just to help you get used to this. So the number 233 is an interesting number because it happens to be a prime number and a Fibonacci number. So prime numbers, remember, they are the numbers that cannot be divided except for by 1 in themselves. So the only numbers that divide into 233 are 1 and 233. That's it. And if you're counting your prime numbers, when it says that 233 is the 51st prime number, that means that there's 50 prime numbers before it. And you see it's telling you right here, the previous prime is 229. The previous prime is 229. And when you start to pay attention to these types of things, especially if you're a sports fan, things will blow your mind. For example, we got a big clue about what this past Super Bowl might be in week 3 of the NFL season on September 22nd, 2019. I'm going to go back and show you something real quick, an NFL box score. 49ers box score, September 22nd, 2019. They played the Steelers this day and they beat them. So, this date numerology, 9 plus 22 plus 19, it equals 50, right? 50. And the date can also be written 22/9. Where did the number empire? Hold on. Oh, there it is. Let me move this site down here. That date, September 22nd, can be written 22/9. Again, it's telling you right here that the previous prime number is 229. So 229 is the 50th prime number, right? So on this date with this major 50 connection, and we were looking at this before the game was played, we actually speculated that there would be 50 points scored in this game, which we weren't right about. But after we saw this game, we started to really hum and haw about if the Niners were going to be in the Super Bowl, and we talked about how they very well could play Kansas City. And here's why. The San Francisco 49ers got their 229th home win in the modern era. And Super Bowl 54 was the 50th Super Bowl of the modern era. 50 was a big number in the game. The Chiefs won their first Super Bowl in 50 years. But the Niners won this game and got their 229th win at home in the modern era on this 22/9 date, the 50th prime plus a 50 date numerology. Now that mattered because San Francisco's that Super 50 team. You might recall they hosted Super Bowl 50. San Francisco and the most pure ciphers 50. And they beat Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh is another city that has Gematria 50 and the most pure cipher. So think about how perfect it has to be. This is why I contend that all these years, the NFL, everything's a perfect script. Because I don't know how, what you'll realize when you start to decode sports and look at sports is you'll see how often things like this happen. And, I mean, either we're living out a simulation or it's rigged and scripted. And when I watch pro sports, I feel like it's definitely rigged and scripted, especially the way the officials make calls. But anyway, we saw this, right? And at the beginning of the year, in week 3, we were still favoring the Chiefs and the AFC to win the Super Bowl. And we knew that, the Chiefs had a big 50 connection. And there's a lot to it. But we started to think, and, there was clues like this. It was Super Bowl 54. Joe Montana played for the 49ers and Chiefs. But this ritual was it was the biggest 50 ritual of the year. And since it was the 50th Super Bowl of the modern era, Super Bowl 54, and the 49ers hosted Super Bowl 50, this really stood out all year. And then, if you were with us this NFL season, it was a tricky season because it was like there was more riddles than ever, but this was one of the most interesting games of the entire year, just how well structured that was. I don't think I can pinpoint anything else that was as precise throughout the entire season as this right here, the 229th win in the modern era, the 50th prime on the 50 date, on the most perfect date over the perfect opponent. And the thing is, you learn this knowledge, you see how often stuff like this goes on in sports. So prime numbers, they're the numbers that are only divisible by 1 and themselves. And, to go back to March 17th of this year. March 17th of 2020 was the 67th day of the year, right? 67 is the 19th prime number. And, 67, 19th prime. Again, you can verify it at Derek's website, or you can go to Number Empire. Do the same thing here. It's not like it's ever going to give you a different value. Derek's website's pulling directly from this site. But 67 is the 19th prime. You can go back and check the headlines from March 17th. In the U.S., they told us that we got our 19th death from Wuhan coronavirus. That was the story all day. The 19th death officially recorded. And Seattle was front and center on CNN's front page that day. Seattle was considered the epicenter in the U.S. of the outbreak. And the big sporting event that night was the UFC fight. And the fighter was going for his 19th career win, so he picks up his 19th win on the 67th day of the year. But again, when you learn this knowledge, you'll see how from the world of sports to the world of news, the same types of number riddles are taking place. By the way, that fighter that won, I'm not a big UFC guy. I want to say his name was Israel Adesanya or something like that. I know his first name was Israel, but you might recall that a few weeks before that fight, he got a lot of negative press for making a joke about how he's going to beat his fighter down and make him crumble down like the Twin Towers. Something like that. And I did a video on that when that happened. I want to say that story was from February 22nd, 2020. I think it was. I think that was the day that story came out. But I pointed out how, he was making a joke about 9/11, and he was going for his 19th career win. And on 9/11, they said it was the responsibility of, or I should say 9/11 was blamed on 19 hijackers. And I'll just leave out the whole Israel piece for right now. We don't want to get our lesson taken down. But again, prime numbers, huge. Out of the different number things to know, prime, Fibonacci, triangular, prime numbers the most important. And in time, you'll learn to recognize them right away. 19, for example, is the 8th prime number. You'll see this relationship a lot. 19, the 8th prime. 107 is the 28th prime. So, and remember, on Gematria.com, you can click on a number, and it'll tell you if it's prime. And by the way, my website, it'll also tell you, I'll just type in Seattle here again. it's same type of thing here. You can click on the number here, and it'll tell you. Prime, yes. Is it a square number? Is it Fibonacci? Is it triangular? So, and by the way, that square thing, that's like, does the number have a square root? So, for example, 49 has a square root of 7. Okay, but coming back to our list of things to know. So prime numbers. I think we understand what prime numbers are. The way to remember your prime numbers is to simply work with the knowledge, work with the information. When you see a number come up, check to see if it's prime. And just a shorthand rule to know if a number's automatically not prime, just remember this rule. If a number ends in 5 or is an even number, it is not prime. So just right away, if a number ends in 5, you know what? Actually, let me write there. If a number can be divided by 5 or is an even number, it is not prime. So if it ends in 5, absolutely can be divided by 5, but like, anyway, you get the point. So if you see that right away, you don't even need to check. It's not prime. If it's an odd number, it's always good to check, especially since these sites just make it so easy. It's the matter of clicking a button, and boom, it shows up right away. Okay, so prime numbers. I think we covered them. And by the way, you guys, as soon as I'm done with the lesson, I'll open up the phone line. If there's anything that's not clear tonight or you need to hear me say again, we'll be able to do that once we start taking calls. We're almost there. But let's finish up triangular numbers and Fibonacci numbers first. So triangular numbers, what those are is simple concept. You probably hear me say a lot, 666 is the 36th triangular number. And what that means is if you add 1 through 36 together, so 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, all the way up to plus 36, it equals 666. And they're worth knowing as well. For example, you might run into things like this. It might be the 5th of the month, right? Let's just say it's the 5th of the month, and you notice in your decodes, you notice the number 15 keeps coming up, and you're going, what in the world? Why is there so many 15s in today's headlines? Why did they report 15 of this happen, 15 of that happen? It's because 15 is the 5th triangular number. If you add 1 through 5 together, it equals 15. And, you know, once upon a time, I didn't realize these simple things. And then the day that it kicked in, I was just like, oh my goodness, I've been missing the most obvious. But that's just how it is. A lot of times the number riddles in the headlines, they're just so simple. You'll notice on the 6th of the month, there might be a lot of 21s in the headlines. 21 could keep popping up on a 6th. That's because if you add 1 through 6 together, it equals 21. And again, this all shows up at Number Empire, Derek's website. If you type in 21 and click look up, it'll tell you that, well, it's a Fibonacci number too. Hold on, where do they put triangular numbers on their website? Oh, they put it right here. So but it doesn't stand out as much as it does on Derek's or mine. So it says 21 is the 6th triangular number. Let me show you how it looks on Derek's site. I like the way Derek did it because it highlights it. So for Derek's triangular, yes, it's the 6th. It's also a Fibonacci number. We'll talk about those in a moment. But this is what triangular numbers are. Just you add the sequence up, and it's very simple to do. So if you add 1 through 6 together and it equals 21, so 21's the 6th triangular number, what would be the 7th triangular number? You would just be adding plus 7 more. So 21 plus 7 is 28. So 28's the 7th triangular number. The 8th triangular number would be plus 8 more. So 28 plus 8 becomes 36. The 9th triangular number would be plus 9 more, which is 45. Remember Donald Trump's commercial from 2009? This one right here? Here, let's just watch it again, just in case you forget. This was some good predictive programming right here. Donald Trump, Serta mattresses. Whoops, I don't think I'm spelling mattresses right. This is the one, though. Serta Room 9. Let's check it out.
So what do you think of my Trump Home mattress collection by Serta? Finally, the same luxury and comfort I demand in my hotels.
Oh, they'll never count sheep again.
Listen, why don't you come work for me?
What do you have in mind?
Something you were born to do.
Welcome to Room 9.
Looking good, number 9. Looking good.
Where's your dignity?
Save now.
Now, this guy put on here that the commercial came out in 2012. I don't believe that's correct. I'm quite certain the commercial came out in 2009. But Trump is wearing the same suit and tie that he wore on election night. Exact same suit and tie. He was called as the 45th president-elect in the early hours of November 9th, like how you have sheep with 11 and 9 here. But he's talking to sheep number 9 at the end. Looking good, number 9. And again, when you add 1 through 9 together, it equals 45. 45 is the 9th triangular number. He becomes 45th president-elect on the same date essentially shown in the commercial. And notice something else too. You see how Serta is 63? Remember, that's the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, November 9th. Berlin Wall is also 63. But what's interesting about this number is if you type in 2016, you'll see that it is the 63rd triangular number. So Donald Trump became president-elect in 2016 on November 9th, the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, where it was foretold in a Serta mattresses commercial. And then, of course, Berlin Wall is also 45 too. Looking good, number 9. 1 through 9, 45. So those are your triangular numbers. Definitely worth knowing. You won't use them nearly as much as prime numbers, though. You're going to use prime numbers more than anything else. But again, this is all knowledge you want to have in your decoding because it's all relevant. The more you know, the more you see and understand. And that brings us to Fibonacci numbers. And the Fibonacci sequence, I'm going to turn this off so it doesn't confuse people. I'm just going to use this white bar to type out how the Fibonacci sequence works. 1, this is how it goes. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55. And it goes on beyond that. The next number would be 89. The next number would be 144. I'm not telling you the pattern. I'm hoping you're seeing it right now. But if not, let me help you out. The way it works is you just add up the last 2 numbers of the sequence to get to the next number. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So then what comes next? 3. Why is that? Because 1 plus 2 is 3. And then 2 plus 3 is 5. And then 3 plus 5 is 8. And then 5 plus 8 is 13. You see? 8 plus 13 gives us the next number, 21. 21 plus 13, the last 2 numbers, gives us the next number, 34. So I think you understand. I'm going to show you what's really interesting about 55 here, which is the 10th Fibonacci number. So that's how you figure out the numbers in the sequence. 1 is the first number and the second number in the sequence. 2 is the third number. 3 is the fourth. 5 is the fifth. 8 is the 6th, 13 is the 7th, 21 is the 8th, 34 is the 9th, 55 is the 10th. So, why is that so interesting, 55? Let's come back to our Gematria for a second. I want you to see that numerology in the most pure cipher is 55. And again, when you add 1 through 10 together, it equals 55. So let me show you something actually real quick. Tools, number properties. I'm going to punch in 55 here. I want you to see that it's the 10th Fibonacci number and the 10th triangular number. So if you add 1 through 10 together, it equals 55. And it ends up being the 10th number in the Fibonacci sequence. So this is why 55 is so interesting. And if you type out Fibonacci, in the reverse, it's 55. And again, once upon a time, I did not know reverse gematria, and I did a bunch of different studying for like a week's period in time. And I was just testing out certain things to see if the reverse was relevant. This was one of the first things I came across, too, that just made me go, wow, that is amazing, that Fibonacci is 55 in reverse. They say the Fibonacci sequence are the numbers of God, because if you research the Fibonacci sequence, it's a number pattern that's encoded in many shapes in this world. It's encoded in the print of a leaf, a seashell, a ram's horn, human anatomy. The Fibonacci sequence is all over the place, and it's what's behind the belief. Essentially, it's what's behind the Masonic belief that God is the master geometer of the world, which is why they have the capital G with instruments of geometry around it. And then again, Gematria means geometry in language. And again, Kabbalah's Book of Formation states that God created the world with numbers, letters, and words. This is how all of these things come together. The rock superstar Marilyn Manson, he put out the album a few years back now. I want to say it was actually maybe 2016, the same time. Let me see this. He put out this album, though, called Say 10. You see how he wrote it like that? Say 10. And let me just show you the lyrics of this song real quick. Show you this real quick. So the chorus says, you say God, and I say 10. So, look at this in Gematria. The word Satan with the alphabetic order is 55. And with the alphabetic order and rules of numerology, it's 10, right? Now, look at what happens when you run the alphabetic order in reverse. God is 55 in reverse and 10 in reverse with the rules of numerology. So, do you think Marilyn Manson knows a thing or two about Gematria? You say God, and I say 10. Something that I was actually really confused about when I started learning Gematria is the fact that I was expecting, when I saw that, well, this is what when I saw that Satan equaled 55 and 10, I thought this was really weird because I knew that 55 was the 10th Fibonacci number. And I thought, why would they make Satan equal 55 and 10 if the Fibonacci numbers are the numbers of God and they've encoded the entire language this way, right? Like, I was just so perplexed by this for so long, or I thought, or is this what they're saying? Is this what they're telling us, the people who crafted our language as it is, that Satan is their God? And honestly, at this point, I'm pretty sure that is what it is. But I was like, why wouldn't they make God 55 and 10? But then when I learned reverse, I was like, well, look at that. God is 55 and 10, but in the more hidden way. So, if you want to take the time, there's a lot of videos out there of people who, once they got to the 32nd degree of Masonry, they started to learn about the more satanic, darker side of the organization they were a part of, and they got out. And there's a ton of people in the world who've put out their websites, their blog posts, put up their own videos, their own testimonials. So obviously something like that is going on that is being revealed up at the top of Masonry that these lower level Masons have no idea about. But I think, I think this right here, because we know how in tune the language is with Masonry, as we've well covered, I think this right here is one of the biggest reveals. And then when Marilyn Manson put out this song in 2016, what was strange for us in the decoding community is this song came out shortly after we had discovered reverse Gematria and we're talking about this. And then this song came out. I don't know, maybe Marilyn Manson learned from us. We did just have CeeLo Green of Gnarls Barkley and Goody Mob share our work on Instagram, but this didn't come out long after we made this discovery ourselves. So anyhow, that's one of the more interesting things. And since we are talking about, Satan and Gematria and triangular numbers and all this, again, I just want to remind people about the Satanic Cipher and why it's called the Satanic Cipher. I'm going to get rid of everything but the alphabetic order and Satanic Gematria. This cipher is very simple. You just start with 36 instead of 1. So A is 36 in Satanic Gematria, B is 37, C is 38, D is 39, E is 40, up to Z is just 61. So essentially the way that cipher works is plus 35 to the alphabetic order. But it's called Satanic Gematria, and look at this. When you write out Satanic Gematria, it equals 666, which is the 36th triangular number. And Derek's website, when it does this, it means it's overloaded. So you just have to refresh it. Usually it'll happen within a few clicks, it works. But 666, the 36th triangular number. And if you think about it, the only way this is possible is with a 26-letter alphabet. So again, that's when you start to realize these other ciphers, they are very cleverly thought out too. And no doubt about it, Satanic Gematria is a relevant cipher. I don't talk about it very much. One of the only examples I ever bring up besides this one is that the word killing is 319 in this cipher. I think Lucifer is too. Yeah, it is in Masonic. Because pretty much, if something has the same amount of letters and an ordinal value, it's going to end up having the same value in Satanic. But the reason I always remember this example is because Prince, the musician, had the song 319, and then he died 319 days after his birthday. And the only connection I know to 319 and death is this one right here. So I suspect it has something to do with that. Okay. Can only talk about Satanic Gematria for so long. Even though I know about it, still kind of gives me the creeps. But it is a real cipher, and the more you know. So, okay, just to review again. Things we talked about today. Today's lesson's a lot shorter than last week's. We're going to open up the phone line here in a moment. But again, just to review. Date numerology. The things to really know about your date numerology is what day of the year are you in, and when you're in a leap year, keep track of what day it normally is, as well as what day it actually is. Like, for example, today, April 6th, is the 96th day of the year in non-leap years, but since this year's a leap year, it's also the 97th day of the year. And also keep track of how many days are left in the year. Like we said, today leaves 269 days left in the year, which is the 57th prime. England's 57, and England's front and center in the headlines today with Boris Johnson, and also with the beauty queen, who's hanging up her crown to fight the crown virus, also known as the coronavirus. And as we talked about, her name in Gematria equals 96, like how today's typically the 96th day of the year, and the term beauty queen equals 46, like today's April 6th, 46. So, know your day count of the year and know your days remaining. Know your date numerology paths, where your date numerology paths expand once you get to the day of the year where it's a double-digit date. So April 10th, always on the 10th, you'll get that life lesson number method that becomes available. Your date numerology paths, knowing your date numerology can be helpful in your decoding, but usually not as much as just knowing what day of the year it is and how many days are remaining. And then also remember, just look at the day and the month as a number itself. April 6th. Look at it as 46 and also 64. I'm sure if we took the time to go through all the headlines today, those numbers would pop up everywhere. Always start your daily decodes by breaking down the date numerology. And just so you guys know, Derek did create a date function calculator, but the reason I don't use Derek's is because he went overboard and he created all these experimental ways to think about numbers and different ways to create number values. And to me, it's overload. And it just creates too many different numbers. But you will notice that if you plug in the date, he'll give you that 50 method, which we uncovered, the 14 method. And notice the life lesson number method will come out the same as just the most crucial method when you're in the single-digit days, because, again, it doesn't matter until there's a double-digit. And then he has the abbreviated. So Derek's calculator, if you don't want to do the math yourself, if you just come look at these top four, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the same stuff that we always do. Where Derek got experimental is all this stuff down below. However, he is giving you the day of the year and the days left in the year. So this thing's experimental. All of this is experimental. But this right here automates everything else we talked about. So if you can remember that, the top 4 and then the day count. He does have that. And you can also use his website to calculate distance between days. So like before, we were talking again about how Boris Johnson's upcoming birthday is June 19th, 2020. Derek's calculator, you know, show you a few different readings. 2 months and 13 days. Over here, 74 days. Over here, 10 weeks, 4 days. So, and then if you wanted the span, you just check that box right there. And it'll be +1. So that is on Derek's Gematria website. Again, you just go to Tools and Date Durations to get to it. And again, Derek, he likes to experiment a lot. To me, it would have been better if he like created a tab where you could go to like experimental section. I think it would be better if just the date numerology methods that you read about, and for example, you know, the type of numerology book you could go check out at the library or get at a bookstore. I think it would be better and cleaner if it just had those, but it is Derek's site. He can do whatever he wants. So just warning, these top 4 though, they're the ones that you really want to work with. And day count. So we hit the date. And then understanding our numbers, prime numbers, again, numbers that can only be divided by 1 in themselves. Always know your prime number relationships with the dates. You'll just see how day after day those relationships come up again and again. Triangular numbers, again, that's where you add, you know, for example, the number 21 is the 6th triangular number, and 21 is actually a good number to understand the relevance. The word Saturn, the planet Saturn, and the most pure cipher is 21, right? The most pure cipher, Saturn, is 21. 21 is the 6th triangular number, and Saturn is said to be the 6th planet from the sun. So you can understand why Saturn is given this gematria of 21. Very relevant planet, considered the keeper of time. Okay, so, and then the last one, again, Fibonacci numbers, the numbers are gone, which we just covered. Again, where you just keep adding 1, 1. Those 2 numbers generate the next number in the sequence, 2. 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 3 is 5, 3 plus 5 is 8, and that goes on to infinity. And you all have access to the book. If you read later on in the book, you'll learn more about Fibonacci numbers and phi, the golden ratio. It's a lot to explain for tonight, so we can save that for later. But these are the things to really capture tonight. If you got here tonight and you missed last week's lesson, definitely go back and watch last week's lesson, because you want to combine last week's lesson and this week's, again, for pretty much your foundation for decoding. If you got both of these lessons down and you understand these things, you can start doing some really relevant decodes. And with that said, what we can do is open it up to callers. If you do want to call in to ask a question tonight, or if there was something you want me to cover that I missed, the number is 509-731-0567, and I'll put it on the screen here. 509-731-0567. You guys are usually on a delay, so realize that when you call in, if you're calling in, it's best to mute your video, because you're like on a 30-second delay from when I'm giving out. What I'm saying now, you're going to hear 30 seconds from now. So when you call in, be sure to have your video on mute. That way we'll be able to hear each other clearly. Let me just check in with the chat too for people who can't call in. All right, check in the chat. If you guys have questions in the chat, I got my eye on the chat now too, so I'll try to answer questions in the chat. Yes, Cassie, yes, you can listen to last week's lesson. It's just, when you go back to the Patreon main page, you can listen to, you just keep scrolling back. All the older content's there. So, maybe we don't have any calls today. We had a lot of calls last week. Again, for people who are new to the Patreon, let me load up the page here. And close a couple windows first. All right. Let's see. Huh, it's doing the same thing that it did last week when I tried to load up the page. I'm always able to load up the page except for when I'm on a live stream. I do not know why this is. That is so bizarre. Well, it's not loading right now, but all you need to do is just scroll down to the next post. The post before tonight's post should be lesson 1. And if you scroll beneath that, the book's posted there too in case you haven't downloaded the book. Again, right now, all of you who are watching this class, you have access to watch last week's lesson. You have access to download the book. And again, if you want to print out that book, you're welcome to take it to any bindery and have it printed. Okay, the page looks like it finally loaded. So, okay, you're right here. You clicked on this and you're watching this lesson right now. Scroll down to the next post. Okay, that's what it looks like. So, okay. So if you scroll down here, this is lesson 1. So you can go back and watch this. The entire thing's here. I want to say like around the first hour and 30 minutes is me teaching, and then everything after that is taking calls and questions. But these videos aren't going to go anywhere. As long as you're a Patreon member, you'll be able to come here and watch them. And you're welcome to download the videos as well if you want to save them. No problem. And right here, you can come here and download the book as well. So, and never mind the trolls, you guys. There's a pack of trolls. They've lived on this page for over a year straight. You can't block them because if you do, they just come back in 5 seconds under a new account and start trolling. It's like it's their full-time job to harass me. And I have no doubt who they actually are, but yeah, there's people that don't want this knowledge out there. So just don't even engage with the trolls. They're going to do what they're going to do. Their job is to annoy everybody and irritate and just spread negativity and lie and slander, and that's what they do all day, every single day. But yeah, ignore them. Everything will be all good. Pick up the book. Download it right here, the book and the cover art. If you missed last week's lesson, definitely check that out. Once you got that lesson down and this week's lesson down, you will be in great shape. And what we'll do next week is we will practice decoding in real time. We'll take apart articles, we'll put our knowledge to the test, and connect the dots. So let me come back to the chat. Maybe we don't have any phone calls tonight, which is fine if we don't. But here, let me see if we got any good questions in the chat. Somebody said, is my phone off? It shouldn't be. Oh, shoot. I apologize, you guys. I apologize. The phone was on airplane mode. I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you guys. You guys probably have... All right, now we got callers. My fault.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, man? What's up?
How you doing, bro?
Hey, what's up?
So I'm on your I think this is your last chapter 22 on your book, The Organic Side of Letters, and I was trying to
Yeah, you're on.
So I was trying to follow you, like everything you did for you, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I couldn't finish it. I tried to do it like two times, and I gave up because it was a little too much for me. It's a lot of numbers. But I was trying to come up with my Fibonacci number, bro. And I think the way you did it is you added up all your right here I see that you added up all your the letters in your of your name, and it came out to 89. Right. And so okay, so and then I did that for me. And yours is 89, mine is 98, and then I tried, and then I just couldn't.
So
I think.
I'll do this example right now since you're calling in and asking me to do this. Just realize not everybody's number is going to add up to a Fibonacci number. So not everybody's going to have a Fibonacci number in their name. It's just it might. So here,
what if it's in between?
okay. So here, I'll do mine like how I do in the book again, just live in real time, so everybody can see. So
All right.
okay, so you can just stay on the phone and listen with me, and then
Okay.
yeah, so just stay on. Okay, so I'm going to go to Tools and Calculator on Derek's website, and I'm going to get rid of every cipher except for what's called full reduction, also known as Pythagorean Gematria. They say that this is the cipher that you should truly do your name with. Now, you can look at all 4 ciphers, but this is the one that's supposed to really matter. If you go to a bookstore or library and read about, getting your birth numerology and your name number, it'll tell you to use this cipher, the one that's dark blue, full reduction. And I still remember being in the bookstore and reading this, and I kind of had a grin on my face, like I wasn't believing it, because I was reading in this bookstore about how you should break down your name like this, and you should compare it to your friends and your family, and you'll just see how there's these amazing alignments. And I was thinking, okay, well, if I should be connected to anybody in this world, if this is true, then I got to be connected to my mom and dad. So I typed out my dad's full name, and his full name is Timothy Stephen Hubbard. And so I was like, okay, so his name equals 89. And then I typed out my mom's full name, and technically, I mean, that's her married name, but it's Donna Jean Hubbard, which is 62. Now, 89 and 62, where their overlap is with the number 8. They both have numerology of 8. 62 is 6 plus 2 is 8. 89 is 8 plus 9 is 17. 17 is 1 plus 7 is 8. So they both break down to 8. So I was like, okay, what's my name? And my full name is Zachary Keith Hubbard, which also happens to sum to 89. And it's funny because I used to always ask my parents why they named me what they named me. There's no Zacharys in the family. There's no Keiths. We have no Irish ancestry. They just said they liked the way it sounded. So anyway, it blew my mind because my number was the exact same as my dad's, and then all of our numbers broke down to 8, and then I started to think about it some more, and I was like, wait a minute, my mom's birthday is September 8th, the date the majority of the world writes 8-9, so I was like, wow, that's crazy. And that's just like what I read in the book, is that if you look at the numbers of your birth and your name, you'll see how those numbers connect to the people in your life. And so I was like, well, maybe there is something to this. And when I first connected this, again, I remembered that my dad, the one thing that he always thought was so cool about the day I was born is what came out in the paper was that the day I was born was the coldest day ever recorded. So, like if you go to Google and type in, what's the coldest day ever recorded, it'll show you that it was July 21st, 1983, which happens to be the day I was born, July 21st, 1983, and the record temperature that day was negative 89 Celsius. So when I saw that, I was like, whoa, that is crazy. And again, I mean, I just know that over the years, a lot of people have called in and done these same types of things, and anyone who's listened to the radio show, you've heard the nights where the callers call in, and they're talking about all these connections with, their wife, or their husband, or their children, or their parents. So, I mean, there definitely is an organic side to this. And I would just start right there. I would just start by looking at your birthday. For example, I didn't even talk about the birth numerology here, but my birthday is 7/21/1983. Hold on, let me turn this off real quick. So my birthday is 7/21/1983. So what's considered the most pure is just to add it digit for digit. So 7 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 3, and that adds up to 31. Right?
Yep.
And then if you want to take it further, 31 in numerology is 4. My dad's birthday is April 18th, 1953. So 4 plus 8, 1 plus 8 plus 1 plus 9 plus 5 plus 3. His thing is also 31. So him and I, our names are the exact same, and our birth numerology is the exact same. So I was like, wow, like father, like son, that's crazy. And just to show something else that's kind of a trip about this is from my dad's birthday, which is, I'll just do it this year, it doesn't matter what year it is. From my dad's birthday to my birthday every year is 94 days after his birthday. And when I was growing up, what people mostly called me was Zach Hubbard. Like, pretty much the only person who called me Zachary was my mom. But what's interesting is Zach Hubbard with the alphabetic order is 94. So I'm born 94 days after my dad's birthday. And then, let me see, to my mom's birthday, which is September 8th. What is it again? Oh, yeah, that's right. So, and then from my birthday to her birthday is 49 days. And the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, it's 49. So, again, this is the type of thing that you could go and look at with, yourself, your parents, your significant other, if you have children. That almost everyone that I've ever talked to that's looked into it has found all these really strange connections that just blow their mind. And you don't have to make it real complicated. Just use that most simple date numerology pattern and use that most pure cipher and just start there and see what you see.
All right, brother.
Did that make sense?
Yeah, of course, but it's not too easy for me. So I'm just gonna be honest. I gotta go back to it.
Here, I suggest you do it on pen and paper. That's how I started with everything. And for me, when I write things down with pen and paper, it makes a lot more sense. It sticks a lot better in my mind. I've just done it so many times that now doing it on the computer is fine. But for me, when I do it on pen and paper, everything just makes a lot more sense. It's like there's something about the physicality of writing something out. It sticks in my mind more. Try that out when you do it.
All right.
All right, man.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, have a good night. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
What's up, caller?
Hello?
Hi.
Who is this?
It's Zach. You got to mute the video because you're on 30-second delay.
Tell me if you're this. Is this really Zach?
Yeah, it's really Zach. It's me. I can hear myself and your video in the background, but it's because it's 30-second time delay.
Okay, I turned it down. Okay, I actually just sent a question on the group chat, and it was last week there was a caller, and while he was asking the question, the buffering started on the YouTube broadcast, and it cut it right off. And he said, it's really interesting. You won't believe it. Look at the letters N72EX.
Oh, right, the Kobe Bryant caller.
Yeah. So I couldn't find out ever what that meant. Anywhere, like I couldn't see, did you end up just explaining it? Because after that happened, I couldn't pull the broadcast back up or anything.
Oh, have you tried to go back and watch it since?
On the Patreon, or on where would it be?
Yeah, so it's on Patreon. So if you just go back to last week's lesson and skip to about where that was in the video, if you just want to skip around on the red bar, you should be able to find the spot.
Okay. So I have one more question then.
Okay.
If I can get that one answered. Okay, so I'm understanding the numbers and all of the stuff that goes along with it. What I wonder is, and I know you say they sit and decode these all day long, where does this start? Like is there a group of people out there? Are there multiple groups of people out there? Is it, I don't want to say who they are. Do you see what I'm asking?
Sure.
Like how far in advance do they, and whoever they are, sit and code these scripts out for people?
Sure. So I imagine at this day and age, I think they have computers and AI that run a lot of it for them and essentially contrive their news cycle.
Okay.
But for who they are, again, this knowledge is reserved for the people up at the top of these pyramids of these secret societies. It's just like the knowledge is obviously very relevant within Freemasonry, but you're not learning this within Freemasonry until you get up near the top of their structure. Masonry, anyone can become a Mason as long as they're not blackballed from the lodge. As long as they're seen as a reasonable person of decent integrity, they're allowed to pursue their first 3 degrees of Masonry. And then after you get your first 3 degrees, then you can choose what path you want to take. And the most common paths are the York Rite or the Scottish Rite. And so once you climb up that structure, you have to be invited to get to the very top. Like, they won't just let anybody become a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason. I imagine it's that when you start to get into those circles, which are very few people, that's where you start to learn about the things we're talking about here. And, where do those groups exist? Well, they exist within, the business world. They exist within the government world. So
Okay.
is there a group of corporations that get together and plot out these types of things? Possibly. It could be done at things like when they have these Bilderberg conference or these, G7 summits. I mean, it could be something like that when they get together, they bring together their schedules for the year, and they essentially script the year ahead and the news that we can expect and the major planned events like the one we're living out right now. But, again, I'm not in those circles, so I am speculating. It's just, obviously there is a power structure at the top. And obviously they are operating this way, but where exactly are those meetings taking place? Again, can only assume because I'm not a part of the group.
Okay.
So to me, again, the whole thing to me is rather than answer those questions, like for example, last year Warren Buffett in 2019, Warren Buffett put out a letter on February 23rd. You can look this up. He put out a letter February 23rd, 2019. And in that letter, he said the big one's coming, and he said it could be a natural disaster or a pandemic, but he said it's going to be an event that shakes the world, brings down the economy, and the world won't be the same again. Now, he put that out February 23rd, 2019, right? 223.
Okay.
Novel coronavirus is 223. I would suspect that Warren Buffett's one of these people in these circles that has the foresight and knows the script, and he's cluing people in along the way who also know.
Okay. I see.
Okay.
Now, what about for us personally? Like, I have talked to different people about this, through these group chats and stuff. Are our own personal lives scripted by people, by other people? Or is it just our life path, numerology number, like things happen? And it was all predestined and written in the numbers. Does that make you see what I'm asking?
I see the difference in your question. I wouldn't say that our lives are scripted. You made the conscious choice to be on here tonight and make this phone call, right? You didn't have to call in right now.
Right.
That was all your choice. Now, is there an element of destiny to our lives that some things are just going to happen and it's inevitable? I mean, that's a personal belief thing, and. I mean, I kind of feel like life's sort of that way. Like some things are just going to happen. I don't think it means that every last detail of our life, that's going to happen for sure, that's going to happen for sure. Some things are the result of good choices and bad choices. But I think there are some things in our life that are meant to happen. So.
Okay. And so basically the scripted or the Gematria numbered things are news and sports and world events, but not necessarily us. It's the kind of mainstream things in the world. So,
okay. Yeah, I think that to me, that's the main reason to know this knowledge is to expose tyranny. I mean, that's why I got into this, because I saw that the media and the government were playing number games, and I was trying to help figure out exactly what they were doing and why, which I think I've accomplished. But then I was also trying to get other people to see it. I mean, my whole goal was to make sure the world woke up before something happened like what we're going through right now. So in a way, I feel the way I honestly feel right now is like, I hope this isn't too little, too late. But again, I don't want to have a pessimistic point of view. But right now, we're pretty much to the next 9/11, and I wanted to make sure that all this tyranny was overthrown by then. And I knew if people could see the way these people operate, that maybe there'd be a possibility to do that. That your other part of your question, no. Again, I do think on the personal side, there is relevance to being aware of this because it shows you that there's something else going on in this world more than we knew. And this might sound like a dumb example, but I always go back to this. It was shortly after I learned about this knowledge. The date was April 7th, 2014. I'll never forget this day because...
Okay.
The person I referred to as Sweet Lady, her and I were already in a relationship, and we'd been together for some time. But I dated plenty of other girls in a period of time, just like looking for the right girl. And there were these two girls that I went out with for a while, and I hadn't talked to them in forever. I hadn't talked to them in either of them in more than 2 years each. And it was so strange because like within 20 minutes of each other, I got contacted by both of them, text messages and phone calls, and I hadn't talked to either of them in forever. And their messages both came on April 7th, 2014, and I thought, what in the world? Why are they both reaching out to me today? And I'd been aware of this number knowledge for not even quite a year at the time, and I thought about it. I was like, hold on, let me look at their names. Let me look at their name gematria real quick. And their names were Trish and Maddie. And Trish equals 74, and Maddie equals 47, and that date, April 7th, can be written 4774. And I was like, how weird that these two reach out to me out of the blue, like almost at the exact same time in the day, after not talking to either of them in all this time. And since that happened, I've just seen plenty of other weird things happen by the numbers, like in my own life, like with no planning. So just when those things happen, it just kind of like makes me scratch my chin and like, what is the meaning of that? It just kind of makes you reflect on things. It makes you go, okay, is there something about numbers that do bring people together and make people think of certain people's? And then from even though they're not communicating with me or aware of what I'm doing, meanwhile I'm like putting out blog posts every day and talking about the numbers 47 and 74 all the time. So like if you study Hermeticism, it'll say that, everything carries a vibration. And when you learn how to use these vibrations, you can use them to your advantage. And also, you start to think words are spells, numbers are spells. So what I started wondering in that moment is it because I'm talking about 47 and 74 so much and I'm so focused on these numbers and I'm putting out all this content about these numbers that these two women from my past who both have this number connection to themselves, is that why they're reaching out to me just seemingly out of the blue on this day? So again, I would say that all knowledge is power. And even though I'm teaching this right now, I've only been aware of this since 2013. So like if you had a guy come over to your house that's a construction worker and he's been doing something for 7 years, he's probably pretty good at what he does. But if he'd been doing it for 30 years, he's probably a lot better. So I see myself the same way in this. If I continue to do this for 23 years, I'll probably understand a lot more in that time. But again, to learn things, you have to go through life experience and observe things and make notes. And just as time goes on, you understand more and more. So right now, I know that there is an organic side of this. And by being aware of this knowledge, you'll pick up on things that might otherwise, seem less interesting. Granted, it still would have been weird to me that those two girls would have reached out seemingly out of nowhere at almost the same time after 2 years of talking to neither of them. But then when I see this, I'm just like, it almost gives me a way to at least sort of explain why it happened, if you see what I'm saying.
Right, and see, that's what, to me, it almost seems like that is pre-scripted for you to happen. Like, that is a destiny, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I guess what I'm trying to get at is there's a higher power or something that has these pre-written, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe I'm stretching for it, but it just seems like our whole lives just coded.
Well,
our destiny is the day, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to die on this date. It's all pre-written in the stars and in the numbers or something.
Well,
just a question like that.
Well, it could be. It could be. Don't let me say that that's not true, because again, there is obviously an element of destiny. But again, it's I can't say that I'm certain on that, but I do realize that by being aware of this knowledge, it makes life a lot more interesting. I'll put it that way, and it's given me a lot of insight into things. So I appreciate being aware of it just to observe it. Yeah, I have a lot of stories that are interesting. A couple of years ago, I forget the number ritual in this, but there was this woman. I was at a grocery store, and it wasn't far from my house. And I was coming out of the grocery store, and I saw this car just flying up on me in the grocery store parking lot, just going way too fast in the parking lot. And it slammed on its brakes, and it barely didn't hit me. And I was like, oh, thank God that car just now didn't hit me in the parking lot. But then for no reason, while we're still stopped, because we were waiting for cars in front of us to make a left turn at the stop sign to even get out of the parking lot, so I can't move anywhere. So while we're still parked there, she starts driving and just drives into the back of my car. And I thought, okay, what is going on with this car? So I went out and looked, and there was a little dent on the bumper. It wasn't real bad. She dented up the bumper. She had a lot bigger vehicle than me, but... and then I just went up to her window, and I know she had some children in the back seat, and they're not big kids either, in their car seat and stuff. And then I could smell right away that she'd been drinking. There was a strong smell of alcohol. And
boy.
I said to her, I said, you know, you really shouldn't be drinking with your kids in the back, especially the way you're driving right now. And I didn't know. Anyway, it's a long story, but the thing was, what I ended up doing is I found out that she only lived like a half mile from the store, and I told her I didn't want to call the police on her because I didn't want her to get in trouble with having kids in the car and stuff. And I asked her if she thought she could drive home, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I can." And I was like, "Well, you just like nearly wasted my car in a parking lot." So I followed her and made sure she got home okay, and it was like a half mile away. I saw on her license when she gave it to me that she didn't live far away. But anyway, when I went home and looked at the story, I saw that like the distance from my birthday to the day she ran into me was like the Gematria car accident or something, and I was just like, God, that is weird. So
that is weird.
yeah, so I'd have to go back and look at it, but so when I looked at it, I was like, okay, that's strange. But then I also felt like it was kind of like a life test, because like, what do you do in that moment? Like, is the right thing to call the cops and get her in trouble because she's driving wasted with her kids in the back seat, or is it that you don't want her to get arrested in front of her kids? So anyway, again, just being aware of this knowledge, it just, you know, it lets you see things that you otherwise wouldn't see. So
Yeah, that's really, really interesting.
yeah, so I can't answer all the questions
okay,
though.
Sorry, we just had someone come to the door.
Okay.
So, well, that's okay. Well, cool. I will start noticing things. I notice stuff all the time. Like my birthday's October 28th. Unfortunately, the same day as Bill Gates.
Funny.
But I see the receipt, my receipt constantly. I always get something that's charged 1028, or I look at the clock, it's 1028, or the change is 1028, or, you know.
Right,
A lot of those things happen all the time.
It's your number. Well, I relate with that because I feel like I look at the clock almost every night when it's 7:21, and that's my birthday, July 21st. I'm like, look at that. I always look at the clock when it's my birthday, but yeah. I get it. So, yeah, life is strange.
Cool.
All right, you have a good one.
All right, well, thank you.
Take care.
Thanks for your info, and thanks for doing this. It's fun.
You're welcome. Have a good night. All right, and speaking of Bill Gates, we got a caller from the Bill Gates area. What's up, caller?
Hey, what's going on? I got my first person to turn towards Gematria, so I'm really proud of myself for that.
Very cool.
Yeah, I got one of my old friends from when I was, grew up in the same neighborhood. We've been friends for many years. You know, he's a big Raiders fan. So I was trying to show him all the, you know, we grew up liking football, so trading football cards and all that. So I was kind of showing him why each of the teams won Super Bowl, because the three numbers would match up with the year and Gematria of the team name or however. So he was like, whoa, you know. And so, of course, Las Vegas Raiders has the 101 this year.
Right, in the 101st NFL season.
Yeah. And, you know, you got to think their new initials are going to be LV, and this season's going to end with Super Bowl LV.
Right.
So I think that's why they're moving to Vegas this year. And, you know, I've been kind of doing some decodes for him, and, you know, it looks like they're going to have a special season this year, and he's really excited. So, but I think he's more excited about the truth more than anything, but, you know.
Well, that is
so
good.
Really, yeah, I think he sees through this whole coronavirus thing, too. We were talking today, and, you know, he's been fooling around with the Gematrinator a little bit. I don't know where he's getting his information, but I tried to turn him onto your channel. I'm not sure if he's listened to any of your videos, but, you know, he's really wide awake, and so I'm really happy to have a close friend, you know, try to get on board a little bit. So
that's awesome, man. Great job. Yeah, great job.
Yeah. I mean, every day I'm thankful you brought this knowledge to light and how observant you were, you know, trying to figure this out. Because, I mean, a lot of people just don't have time to figure these things out, or
well, that's just it.
Even think about looking.
That is just it. I had to make time in my life to take time to figure this out, and I was only able to do that because I had this goal for a long time, and I had to save and get myself into a position where it was even possible. So.
Yeah, and kudos to you, man. That's awesome. I'm working like 7 days a week right now. Well, I always work 7 days a week, so I work in the bread business. But, you know, right now we're finally getting caught up on the shelves. So we're getting wiped out every day, and I'm working long days. But, you know, after work and between naps or whatever, I try to do my experimentations and try to take survey of different things and just try to learn more and more every day. So that's what it takes, I think. So
yeah, indeed.
Yeah, so man, I'm just proud of you for bringing this to light. And you know, this community is growing. It's not growing super fast, but it's growing a little bit at a time. And you know, it took the tyrants, you know, centuries to get to where they're at right now. So it's going to take us a little while to get where we want to be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Well, I appreciate it, friend. Keep up the great work, man.
All right, thank you.
All right, have a good night. Take care.
All right, bye.
Caller?
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, Zach.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, have you ever heard of the Elders?
The Elders. That's definitely a familiar title.
Yeah, in all four ciphers, it's the same exact as Freemason.
Okay.
Let me pull up the website here. 1 second. So the Elders is a supposed human rights independent group of global leaders. And the people that are in them, one of the founders was Nelson Mandela, Mary Robinson, Jimmy Carter. I don't even want to try it, but some of these names they're all over the world, and it's very interesting that they're St. Gematria is Freemason sect of a Freemason group like a Scotch, right?
Indeed. Yeah, this would be a great little research project right here. Yeah, that overlap with Freemason and the Elders, definitely not a coincidence.
Oh, what is these days? I also want to know, have you ever heard of the Organic Portal theory?
Sorry, you broke up a little bit. The what?
The Organic Portal theory.
Organic Portal series?
Yeah, well, you were talking to a caller where it sounded like, you know, that we might be living in a matrix simulation, and organic portals are, how can I put this? It's kind of a hard way. They're like the people that you're talking about, the brain dead zombie people.
Uh-huh.
The people who just do the same shit every day. They don't think. They just follow the status quo. And it's just really weird because every time I'm like talking about like certain serious things, like weird people with weird energy, like when I'm not inside, obviously, but when I'm outside, I'm talking about this stuff with people. A bunch of like people kind of come around and kind of disturb with their energy on our discussion every time. It seems to be surreal. But yesterday, it just comes to show like what you're talking about. At 11:09 a.m., I filled up my put some gas in my car, and I'm like, you know what? Watch it say I have 119 miles in my left in my tank. I only put like $10 in.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, that's what it said. 119. It was at 11:09.
Huh.
So I thought that was like, and then all day yesterday I was seeing 119s everywhere, and I did a bunch of homework. I was going to share it with you. I think I left it on a comment for you. I can't remember, but there's some interesting 119s that I haven't seen you really go over yet, but you're only one man, so.
Sure, there's a lot of things that slip through the cracks. I'm sure I miss a lot of great messages and emails every day, and I hate that, but it's just the reality. I mean, I only got 2 sets of eyeballs and 2 hands and 2 ears, so yeah, there's only so much I can do in a day. This thing about organic portals, it's actually funny you bring this up, because I was actually having a thought like this yesterday. I'd never heard of this before, but okay, just yesterday I had an experience like a lot of us have had before. I had to go to Costco yesterday to get something there, and if anyone's been to a Costco anytime recently, they have all these people everywhere holding up signs that say social distancing, 6 feet apart. So these 2 employees were out in the front of the store, and they were each holding these signs, and they were maybe 2 feet apart. So I said to them, jokingly, do you guys notice that you guys aren't 6 feet apart? And they looked and they're like, oh, I guess, yeah, we're a little close. And I was like, come on, man. But anyway, and then when after he responded to me, I said, you know what you should really have on that sign? He goes, what's that? I said, you should write Research Event 201. And right away he goes, is that some kind of conspiracy? You know, and that just like doofus look with the and I was just like, well, it's a real thing, but yeah, maybe it is like a conspiracy. But just already his whole body language and it's just amazing how people always go to that right away. It's like, what is that? Why is that in so much of humanity that you like even just start to tell them something and they're already like, is this a conspiracy theory? It's just like, what? But then even though he was acting like a doofus, I said, look it up. I said, Event 201. It happened October 18th, 2019, the same day the military world games began in Wuhan, and it was a simulation by essentially the world's financial elite simulating a coronavirus pandemic about a month before they started to give us news stories about a coronavirus pandemic, an outbreak. So, and then he was like, oh, okay. And it's just like, it is weird, man. But so, what I started to think about, though, is I was like, okay, what if like, I mean, this is like a weird theory that I just started thinking about yesterday, and it kind of relates to, I haven't read this Organic Portals, but I was thinking, okay, once upon a time, there probably wasn't this many people on the planet. So, I guess my thought, like, kind of even, like, involves, like, if reincarnation's a real thing. Okay, if reincarnation's a real thing, well, what happens when there keeps being more and more people, like, how could they be reincarnated souls, too? So I started to think, like, well, maybe some of us, like, get reincarnated and we have, like, a special soul, like, maybe of a decent person that lived on this earth before us. And then maybe these other people that get born into the world, like, for whatever reason, they don't get to have one. I was just trying to, like, think about how things are the way they are in this world. And I'm not saying this is the way it is.
Again, Portal is, yeah, just like, it's a soulless person who kind of sucks the life out of you.
Well, that is kind of how these zombies are, man. It's like they're just, you're like, right, it's like they're robotic. They respond to everything the exact, it's like, how are they all this way? How do they all respond in this just like silly, goofy, nonsensical, non-thinking way? It doesn't make sense.
Well, yeah, they're programmed to kind of keep the simulation the way it is. And there's so many of them that it's, you know, and that's where I was going to get with the next conversation is that, I don't know if you ever heard of First Amendment auditors or not, but they have a very loyal fan base. And I feel like if you got a hold of a couple of the bigger ones, that I've talked to a couple of them, they've heard of Gematria, they've looked into it, but they haven't, like, you know, they're pretty busy right now, filming. You know, I don't know if you know a lot about the First Amendment, probably, where they just go to, like, public buildings and kind of record. And,
sure.
And that's where this organic portal thing comes in. Like, when you disrupt the system, the matrix, it's like these people, they freak out. And, you know, and that's what they're doing as First Amendment auditors. They're, like, disrupting the system because usually they're going to government places. The government is part of the system to try and make this keep going. So they record. They use their First Amendment, free speech, free press.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, I think it's great that people do this. I am aware of it, and a lot of people do it with all sorts of things, police officers and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I think that's a necessary thing for the times. Friend, I'm gonna keep it moving just so other people can call in, but really appreciate your call. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna keep watching.
Yeah, take care, man. Have a good night. Caller.
Hey, what's up, Zach?
Hey, man.
Man. Out of Baltimore.
Hey, what's up?
Not too much. Great school lesson today, man. It was good last week as well.
Well, I appreciate that. I hope I did a good job today. I'm a little bit more frazzled this Monday than I was last Monday because I'm taking care of Sweet Lady today, and she's not feeling well, and she's all anxious. But I'm glad that you thought the lesson was good. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. Hope she feels better as well, man. I had just a couple of things I wanted to bring to your attention. Nothing too long, nothing too major. Were you familiar that, and maybe I heard of it because it was in the Maryland area, you know, the Chesapeake Bay and all, but did you hear about RFK's granddaughter and I believe great-grandson they're missing or...
And the canoe accident? The canoe accident?
Yeah, canoe. It's crazy you said canoe because First of all, the whole story didn't make sense because there's supposed to be a bunch of children on the side on the grass, and they're supposed to be playing soccer, and supposedly the soccer ball ends up in the Chesapeake Bay. And they felt that it would be a good idea to hop in the canoe to go get the soccer ball. That's how the story is going.
Right.
But canoe has the exact same gematria as death in all 4 ciphers. And we already know about the Kennedy curse thing, so I just thought that was crazy.
Well, you'll really appreciate my video because I talk about all the same things. And I have a feing that nobody saw that video because everyone's asking me to do a video on it. I've been paying attention because I'm subscribed to my Gematria Effect Sports channel on my Gematria Effect News channel and vice versa. And I've just noticed that a lot of videos that I'm making, I can't see them on my subscription feed. And then even when I click on my own channel, I just, in that window where it would normally pop up with like the newest videos I made, I can't even see it there. But then when I click on the videos tab, then I can see that I made some new videos there. So I think a lot of my videos are getting really like an extra level of ghost banning right now. And I think a lot of the content I'm making right now, nobody's seeing. So
yeah, I stay up on the videos, man. So yeah, I definitely didn't see that. Didn't mean to, reiterate anything that you've already done.
It's fine, man. Because again, I realize why people aren't seeing the videos I'm making right now. Because I can't even though I know I made the video, I'm still having trouble finding it in my subscriptions thing. So
right, that's crazy, man. Another thing about what you were just talking about, as in terms of tomorrow, April 7th, as you know, like you just said, it's the 47th date, so I think we should expect something big.
It's the World Health Organization's birthday tomorrow.
Exactly. And the thing that I saw is that tomorrow is going to be supposedly the biggest super moon. It's going to be a full moon tomorrow, and they call it the pink moon.
Yep.
So that's going to be heavy as well. Now, the thing about moon is that moon equals 51 and 15. And then if you do tomorrow's numerology, 4 plus 7 plus 20 plus 20 equals 51. So
and
I think it's going to be something big tomorrow. You know what I mean? Also, moon equals 57, and then that's the Scottish Rite thing right there.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it at this. This last one, I think this is super deep. I don't know if you covered this yet, but did you hear that Jennifer Gates, Bill Gates' daughter, is supposed to be engaged now?
You know what? I didn't even realize Bill Gates had a daughter. I will have to look into that.
Man, check this out. Her fiance's name is Nayel, Nayel, Nayel Nassar, Nassar. Guess when his birthday is, man? January 21st. He supposedly is an equestrian the same way that she is. And of course, equestrians, they ride horses. Well, horse equals 65 like pandemic. It also equals 70 like coronavirus. If you punch up horse rider, that equals 119 like 9/11 in reverse, or Trump's, date or whatever. And then also it equals 65 as well, like pandemic, horse rider. Also, his father, Nayel Nassar, his father is an architect. He owns an architecture company, like a master builder, you know what I mean? And architecture, that equals 131 and 59, like, the 59 like Freemasonry. So that's all I got. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but take a look at that, man. There's something with that, you know what I mean? Like, it's perfect. It seems like it's an arranged marriage to me, so that's all I got, man.
Well, I think it definitely is. There's a lot of that in this world of celebrity, so I will check that out. I appreciate that. I did not realize Bill Gates had children until just now. Okay.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you take care, man. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Awesome feeds as always, man. Thank you. And
all right.
I'll look for that video that you did on RFK as well.
Yeah, it's there. I did it the day the news broke. All right, appreciate it, man.
All right, cool. Thanks,
all
man.
Right, take care. Yeah. If you guys missed my video on this about Bill Gates' staged mugshot down in New Mexico where Microsoft was founded, again, it just shows that it's been going on for a long time. That mugshot was 46 days after his birthday. Microsoft's 46. And I noticed that they set up their Microsoft campus on the 47th day of the year, just like how New Mexico's the 47th state and Seattle's on the 47th parallel. What's up, caller?
Hey, man.
Hey.
This is my first time calling. I just joined your Patreon. This is my first lesson.
I really appreciate it. I got your book back in October, and I've been listening to you off and on as much as I can. I'm pretty busy. Got a lot going on in my own life. But have you ever heard of Emmanuel Swedenborg?
How do you spell his last name?
Sweden, Swedenborg, and Emmanuel with the Emmanuel.
Got it.
Emmanuel Swedenborg lived back, and he was born like 1688, I believe.
Yeah.
And he passed in like 1774 or 5, somewhere around there. But anyway, he announced in 1757 that he was taken into the spiritual world by angels, and the angels showed him what they called the final judgment of Revelation. So he wrote a book called The Final Judgment, and it was that the book of Revelations has been fulfilled, and we're now on the other side. And then they took his works that he published, and they kind of concealed it. Like I'm talking about the European theologians and priests and bishops and all those people, because he had told them that they had been teaching lies. The angels basically told him that the reason why that they were being indicted and a lot of them were being sent to hell was because they were teaching that they had corrupted the word, and through that corruption they had led astray the whole Christian world. And so the final judgment came on the Christian world, and the heavens and earth were put back in order. And since then, new revelations were actually able to come into, the minds of mankind, because they were being blocked by the false teachings that Christianity was bringing at that time. So he basically wrote a book called True Christianity to straighten it out. But still the churches consider him to be a heretic, and that he, basically was bringing the teachings of the devil. But the main thing I wanted to explain about some of the books that he wrote, he explains how he was taken into the world of the spirits, and there he said that the angels speak in numbers, and when they hear us pray, or when we read the Bible out loud or in church or whatever, everything that goes up there turns into numbers, and they use letters that are like the Hebrew and Arabic, and everything that they speak to us through that, like when he was in the spiritual world, he heard things in English because in his language, but he also saw things written down in Arabic and Hebrew. But for the angels, those were numbers, not letters. But they become letters to us because when they transmitted to the prophets or whoever it was that wrote down these things in Arabic and Hebrew, those things were written down in that script. But to them, it was numbers. It wasn't a language like how we speak. That's what I'm trying to say.
Huh.
But I didn't know if you had knew about that or heard about that or not. But he was to me, he's like the greatest theologian that ever lived. But to most Christians, he's considered to be a heretic.
Sure.
But that's one of the reasons why I like him so much. Because like all the preachers will say, this man's of the devil, don't listen to him, don't read his books. And I know that they had his books are almost concealed except for one group that's trying to keep his works alive, and that's the Swedenborg Foundation. But anyway, that's what I want to say. And besides, thanks for this lesson, man. Cause, you got me so excited I can't hardly think straight. But also wanted to ask you, can you download this into a phone, this Gematrinator, or does that have to be on a computer?
Oh, so okay. Are you saying that the calculator?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have access to the, what do they call it, the Google Play Store, if you have access to that, or on an iPhone Apple Store, if you have access to either of those through your phone, if you search GEN for Gematria Effect News, GEN space Gematria space calculator, the app will pop up. It's for iPhone or Android device, It's totally free, and it works. You don't need an internet connection. It's a Gematria calculator that works without an internet connection.
So you say go to Play Store and I put in GEN, what else?
GEN for Gematria Effect News. So GEN space Gematria space calculator.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Hey, man, I will appreciate especially what you do with revealing the true Israelites and things like that, because, you know, I think exactly like you on that. But I just love you, man. Appreciate you.
Well, you're very welcome, and I appreciate you bringing up this person because, I mean, obviously what he's teaching goes hand in hand with what we're talking about, so that's very interesting. So I'm going to look more into it. How did you find that out about him?
Well, I used to play in a band back in the 70s, and one of the guys I was playing with, he belonged to the Swedenborg Church.
Oh, okay.
And he was leaving the church because I guess somebody convinced him this dude was a heretic, and he gave me all of his books. And that's the most treasured. That's my most treasured reading when it comes to any kind of Christian literature, because to me he's like he's the man. But he lived back so far that most people today haven't heard about him because all the preachers and theologians consider him to be of the devil. But I consider him to be like the highest of theologians and has the greatest revelations of all time.
All right, I'm going to check it out. I really appreciate the information.
Okay. Thank you, man. Appreciate your information.
By the way, one other thing, the GEN Gematria calculator, it'll say that the guy who built it, it'll say his name is C. Skylar Young. He's the guy I paid to build the app, so he is the developer of it. But it's absolutely free, and just download it to your phone. It's the logo for it is like a red or a reddish square, and it's got a G for Gematria. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, man.
All right.
Peace
yeah.
and love.
You take care. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Bye. Okay, and it's the exact same logo for all the people on Apple. In case you guys haven't downloaded that yet, that works without an internet connection. Caller?
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, man. Do you remember when we were talking about earthquakes a few weeks ago, and there was one in Idaho on March 31st, I believe?
It was March 31st, and it was a 6.5, and that's a good example for what we were talking about with understanding our dates, because, again, March 31st can be written 31/3, like 313, the 65th prime, and you get a 6.5 in the Boise area on the 31st of the month, and Boise's 31. And also that was the 91st day of the year, and HARP, the military technology that has the power to create earthquakes, HARP is 91. So, okay.
Yeah. But what I wanted to talk about is I found out something in the course of reading articles about that. I found out there was a bigger earthquake in the same area near Chalice, Idaho, on 10/28/1983, which happened to be Bill Gates' 28th birthday.
Huh.
And when I looked into it, I noticed that, you know, the Bill Gates numbers and the numbers for Chalice, you know, Bill is 28, Chalice is 28, Gates is 83. Chalice, Idaho, I think, is 83, and then Chalice, Idaho is 56, coronavirus and all that. And then I had a sense that somehow this might be connected to that Alan Merrill guy who died at the age of 69, and then I looked into that, and it was like 69 days after January 21st, and so, you know, there must be some kind of a connection. And then I made the discovery that Microsoft and rock and roll are identical in all four ciphers. So it seemed like, you know, obviously, I don't know if this was kind of, you know, Bill Gates' arrival as being like a big mover and shaker in the world or something. But, you know, obviously it seemed to be something kind of important there.
I'll have to go back and look at that. Since it was 1983, at the beginning of 1983 is when they announced who the Person of the Year was for Time Magazine, and they announced it for the year prior. So January 3rd, 1983, it was announced that the Person of the Year for 1982 was the computer.
Right. I saw that today.
So
that was interesting too.
So now you're saying this happened in '83. I'll have to go back and check that out. And again, it's interesting.
Well,
go ahead.
This guy, Alan Merrill, he was most famous for writing the song "I Love Rock and Roll."
Right.
And that was a big hit for Joan Jett in 1982.
Huh.
And Joan Jett equals 121.
Huh.
So, and then, in addition to that, they said that "I Love Rock and Roll" is number 56 in Billboard's greatest songs of all time.
Really? Wow. And did they say that he died from coronavirus? I forget.
Yep, he died from coronavirus, supposedly.
And what listing has that song at 56th all time?
The Billboard. I got that off of Wikipedia.
Crazy, man. I missed that when I did the deco. That is sick.
Yeah, and he died on 3/29.
Yeah, he did.
That was a couple of days before the 6.5 earthquake.
Right, and just to connect to tonight's lesson, just to again connect to tonight's lesson, that was a date with 52 numerology. His name equals 52. So.
And there was one additional detail that sort of blew me away on this. Yeah, I'm calling this the Bill Gates earthquake, and from that date to the first World Trade Center bombing on 2/26/93. So to me, it just shows how coded in he is to everything. I don't know, but
indeed. You said that they plugged that in on the Wikipedia page, that it was 56 all time on the Billboard chart.
Yeah, it was one of the Wikipedias. I was either looking up the Wikipedia for the song or for Alan Merrill or something, but I had that as a written note.
Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah. Number 56 in Billboard's greatest songs of all time. Incredible. Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of
man, well, man, yeah, I know. That's just how they roll. Yeah, something else. Yeah, great catch.
Yeah. All right, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. You have a good one.
Have a good night.
All right, take care. Caller?
Oh, yeah, here it is. What's going on, Zach?
Hey, what's up, man?
Man, this Big Vic calling out of South Carolina. I called last week and I asked you the question about the good and Gematria. I got another question, though.
Okay.
Have you ever thought about doing, like, a Gematria Bible, for lack of a better word, like, with all the... Because I'm a visual person like you. I like to write stuff down. So every time I hear a number, I associate the word with the number and put it in a little box, whatever. Have you ever thought about like putting one of those together?
Okay, so yeah, a lot of people want me to do that, and the book I'm working on, I have a little index, but like I say in the index, I say you'll see these numbers used repetitively in rituals, but understand that no one number means just one thing. For example, did you see the video I recently did about how Elvis got his vaccine on television, and that was exactly 42 weeks after his birthday, and it was on Jonas Salk's 42nd birthday, and it was the polio vaccine, and vaccine equals 42, and it was also Bill Gates' first birthday, and the word birthday is 42. So, like, that's a 42 ritual that's obviously very specific to 42 and vaccine. But when they're coding 42 all over Black history, it doesn't really have anything to do with vaccines. So that's why it's hard to say, like, a number just means one thing. That's why in the book that I'm still not finished with, I explain how you'll see these numbers used systematically in this regard, but realize these numbers do have other meanings. So again, that's why it's best to decode and understand how they're using the number in a certain ritual. Because like it's very clear when you realize vaccine equals 42 that they lined all that up with 42. But, you know, I wouldn't want people to say, oh, so 42 just must mean vaccine to everything, which obviously isn't the case. So.
Right. My second question, and I'm going to hang up on this one. So I'm waking people up. I got a little group on Facebook called Freely Giving, and I share your information often. And I want to put them on the Matonic cycle, you know, and give them more information about that. Could you share more information about the Matonic cycle and what it means and how it pertains to today?
Well, that is something I could do more work on. Sure. I could do more work on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you.
All right. Well, I appreciate you too. Thanks for being here, and thanks for spreading the work.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, man. You have a good night. All right. I got to plug in this thing real quick about this song before I forget, because this is just one more example of 56 in this whole ritual. And speaking of which, I didn't get to make any videos today because we've been taking care of other things around here today. But this story right here just irritated me. How coronavirus is deepening American inequality. And look, it's just like, you know, the other week they said it's going to cause all this unemployment. Notice inequality is another 56 word, like coronavirus, like unemployment. And nowhere in the article does it talk about, you know, how, you know, the tech giants are benefiting so much from this. The person who just called in from the 786 area code, I was just going to answer the phone. It only rang one time, and then it hung up right away. So if you meant to call in, I'm sorry. I didn't quite switch over in time. But this article right here is just talking about how it's really hurting the poor and the middle class, but it doesn't talk about how much the people at the top who are orchestrating this are benefiting. It leaves out that part. It's just saying the poor are getting poorer from this. Well, obviously, but again, it's just they only get, even when they give you the truth, they're not giving you the most important details. And again, I just realized I was like, wow, one more word that just fits in with their whole planned ritual. Inequality, 56. Here, I realize this person's called in a few times. Let me call them back. Looks like the calls might be winding down here. It is getting late on the East Coast. Let's see if they wanted to phone in.
Hello?
Hey, you're on, caller.
Hi, how's it going? My name is Richard.
Hey, Richard.
I actually wanted to speak to whoever, well, Zach.
That's me.
I have this project. It's called Rich University. Well, it's just actually a placeholder name. But I teach people how to make money online.
Okay.
And it was a few videos back where I saw that he was trying to buy some space and actually start something. I was motivated this morning. I saw the live stream with David Icke. There was a London Real interview with him this morning.
Right.
And that kind of motivated me to actually partner up with someone. I really wanted, I'm actually relatively new to this, and I actually want to get it off the ground, and I want it to be towards something.
Okay.
So my idea was, I teach people how to build streams of revenue through the internet, through affiliate marketing or Bitcoin or anything like that. I was gonna suggest that I partner up with you guys, and we have a cluster of people that know how to do it, and a portion of the revenue that they generate will go to Gematria Effect and the projects that you guys want to fund.
Okay.
And he also had some ideas on that video that, you know, make some, you know, memes about exposing what they're actually doing, or, you know, making informative videos that the masses will like, you know, but getting it in front of them in some way.
Right.
And also a good way to actually draw people in during this lockdown, during this crisis, would be a way to make money online. So I don't know if you guys, well, your platform, you can lure people in with the promise There's going to be training on how to build your own stream of income through online. And then through that, you can expose, you know, the rituals as they go along.
Sure. Sure. So, like, so what do you do to make money online? Like, what's your thing?
Right now it's affiliate marketing. Right now it's there's a site called ClickBank where vendors put their products out, and affiliates can take their products and basically spread it throughout the internet, and then you get commission on the products. There's certain courses. For example, there's a product called Shock, where it's a bunch of calisthenic workouts teaching you how to jump higher. So that program will probably be $80, and you'll target basketball players or volleyball players, or you know, any sport that requires agility.
Sure. I see.
And when you get a sale, you get a commission. So since the digital product is 50 to 75% commission on a digital product. So that $80 will possibly be $40 or $60 in your pocket per sale. That's one sale.
I see. So what you're proposing is getting people in this community who are hurting from what's going on to figure out how to do this so that they can make some money again, and then get the people in the community to also think about the idea of, well, since you're making money about this and you learn about it within the community, let's put it towards a community project and take it to the next level. That's what you're saying.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, I don't mind. I don't mind you promoting people if they want to learn about this. I think a lot of people probably are looking for an opportunity right now. I don't know you, so I hope it's not like a scam or a gimmick. But I know that certain people do stuff like this and they make money. So if you want to put it out there for people to contact you, I'm cool with that.
Definitely. Well, right now I don't have a site. I just have a Facebook page. It's Richie Rich University. That's my Facebook page. Well, the idea mostly is getting a cluster of people to actually, you know, fund, you know, exposing this.
Sure.
I don't know necessarily how, you know, that money will be used, but I know that a lot of people are struggling right now during the lockdown, that, you know, they're out of work, businesses are failing and all that. But yeah, that's my suggestion.
So people search for you on Facebook and they search Richie Rich, and what was the last word?
University.
Richie Rich University. Okay. Okay. Appreciate it, man.
Okay. Well, yeah, thank you.
All right, yeah. You have a good one. Take care.
You too.
All right. All right, guys. We can wrap it up there for today. If there's any more calls, you're welcome to call in, but I see the calls are winding down. Again, if you haven't downloaded the app for your phone and you want to do that, it is free and you don't need an internet connection. So that's the benefit of this calculator. I'll tell you what, it costed way too much to develop. It started out with a lot smaller price tag and it just kept going up. The one functionality that needs to be added to the calculator, and it will, he's told me it's going to cost another $2,500, is it needs a way to memorize your searches, so that all gets saved in a history and you can compare and stuff, and it was supposed to be done already, but he said for that he's going to need another $2,500. It's just like, oh my goodness. But anyway, it is a useful tool, and it's nice that it doesn't need the internet connection, so you can download that for iPhone or Google. In the Apple App Store, it's the same search, same icon. Here, we got another caller here. What's going on, caller?
Hey, what's up, Zach?
Hey, man. You broke up. What's up? Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, I just want to give a couple of stories before you get off. One more thing about the Kennedy thing. You got to remember, Andrew Cuomo, who was married to RFK granddaughter, they divorced in 2003. So just a reminder of that too.
Okay, another Andrew Cuomo connection. Okay.
And I had to talk to you about it. I don't know if you're gonna do another video tonight or whatever, but I know you had to talk about the Bronx Tiger.
I did. I put out that video last night on the Bronx Tiger.
Oh yeah, you did.
But what I missed in that video, somebody left a good comment about that tiger. In Jewish gematria, the word tiger is 201 in Jewish. And I didn't catch that in my video, but I was like, there's another 201, like the Event 201 simulation. But yeah, the tiger was at the Wildlife Conservation Society in the Bronx. That name of that equals 155, like coronavirus. And then it was a Malayan tiger, and the date was 5/4. That equals 54, like sun's 54, like it happened on a Sunday. I saw a lot of people in the comments left that I doubt this is a coincidence that the hit show right now on Netflix is The Tiger King. And because everyone left that comment, I started to watch like the first 10 minutes of that show, and it's got to be right around the 10-minute mark where they're talking about their tigers that have died in the past. And the first one they talk about, or maybe it was the second one, it's either the first or second tiger they talk about that they used to have that died. Its name is the Black Mamba. And I was like, what? You know, like Kobe Bryant? Are you there, man? I can't hear you anymore. What happened? Why can I not hear him? Hold on. All right, there. I see what happened. For some reason, it muted you. I did not hit the mute button. Anyway.
Oh, you hit me?
Now I hear you, but I was just telling you about how I turned on that show, the Tiger King, the hit show on Netflix that everyone's watching right now, and they talk about the death of one of their tigers, and his name is Black Mamba.
Well, I got one more tiger for you. The baseball player, a Hall of Fame baseball player for the Detroit Tigers, and his nickname is Mr. Tiger. He died at 85. Al Kaline.
Did that just happen?
I think he died today.
Right after the story.
He either died today or yesterday. And his nickname is Mr. Tiger.
Al Kaline. I see it. Huh. This hard headline right here, he spent 67 years with the ball club. Of course, they love that number, 67. Sacrifice numbers, so.
They played 22 seasons with them.
Another video that I need to do that's on my page right now is Bobby Mitchell of the Redskins just died. I was waiting to see. I had a feeling somebody would die from the NFL yesterday because it was Sunday and it was 5-4 after Super Bowl 54, and it ended up being a Redskin. And he wore the number 49, and yesterday had 49 date numerology, like Super Bowl, like NFL, like America, like how all that's 49. Washington's 49. 49ers. The Chiefs just beat the Niners in the Super Bowl, Native American teams. I'll do a video on this. There's a huge ritual here. It's actually going to be a longer video, so.
So I just figured that all there's a lot of Tiger. Last year, this time, Tiger won the Masters. Around this time, going on to the Masters, I'm thinking about it.
That's true. It was a year ago that Tiger won the Masters, right? Yep.
So I don't know where they going with it. But you said something about the beast, the mark of the beast, with the tiger being the first. That's what you said, right?
Well, I was just talking about how, again, that thing that's called Clade X, that simulation of the coronavirus outbreak that was done May 15th, 2018. That was 666 days before it was declared a pandemic, and 666 is the number of the beast, and technically a tiger is a beast, so now a beast has the coronavirus, so there's definitely something going on here.
All right, that's it. I just want to hit you with that Andrew Cuomo. So when you do it, talk about that Kennedy in the canoe, talk about him too. He was married to RFK granddaughter, so he was in the family some type of way.
Yeah, I'll look more at that. I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right. Take care, man.
All right.
All right. See you. All right. Guy called in from Chicago. I think it was Chicago. Oh, it's 7:21 right now. Speak of the devil. 7:21. What do you know? All right. Let me call Chicago real quick. And I think we can call it a night.
Hello?
Hey, caller. You were calling in.
I was. Zach, I have a question for you that's kind of been burning for me for a while. Do numbers mean different things in the different ciphers? Like, say, in the ordinal and reverse ordinal, if you get a 56 in both of those, or a 21, or the same number in both of those, does the number mean something different because of the cipher that it's in? Is there any kind of magnification or importance that has?
So that's still a question that I don't know a definitive answer to. You would think that there'd have to be some sort of difference, but what I notice again and again is just how, you know, if it's reduction gematria, it's reverse reduction gematria. A lot of times, you know, they connect to each other like they're opposite ends of a magnet. Just like that list of everything 47 in Washington D.C. Republicans 47 with reduction gematria, Democrats 47 with reverse reduction gematria. So they're both political parties, right? So they're connected like that, and they're both in D.C., the land of 47, but obviously there's a little bit of difference between the political parties, or at least on the surface there is. So,
on the surface.
So, I mean, that's about the best I could answer the question for now, but that's still something I think about too. But again, it's just like today's story too, just about how they're coding the story about how coronavirus is creating inequality, and inequality's 56 in reverse, whereas coronavirus and unemployment are 56 forwards. So it's all related. It all fits into the same ritual. So I appreciate that question. I can't give the clearest answer, but the Democrat-Republican one's something to think about. So.
All right, thank you, man.
All right, man. Yeah, you have a good night.
You too.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
All right, you guys. We're about at we're almost at 2.5 hours. We can leave it there. Next week we will just review again, and next week we'll practice decoding in real time. I'll just decode a few stories that are in the news that day. I'll just save them so we're doing them fresh, so we're looking at them blind, just like how I get up each day and decode stories, and just show you what it's like from start to finish. We'll do the date numerology. We'll decode the story, and again, whenever I decode something, there's usually at least one or two things I miss. So as the show will go on next week, you guys will be able to call in and say, hey, Zach, look what I noticed about this story. And I'll be like, great work, because that's how it is every single time. So we'll do that next week. And if you want to call in and request stories to decode, or maybe there was a story you were working on this week and you had a question about, so that's what we'll do next week. Monday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern. We'll decode in real time, practice putting the skills to work, and just keep building each week. So next week will kind of be like a review session, but also practicing the skills that we've learned from weeks 1 and 2. And again, if you missed last week's lesson, again, the way Patreon works is every time I make a video, it just pushes the last video down. So last week's video, you just got to scroll down the page one spot. There it is. Definitely watch last week's lesson if you didn't watch it. If you don't have time to watch the whole thing, you know, you can always watch things in chunks. You don't have to watch it all at once. But about the first hour and a half is the lesson, and then the second part is taking people's calls, which are also interesting and worth listening to. But if you only have an hour and a half, that's what the first part of the video is, the lesson. And if you scroll down one beneath that, you can download the copy of the book here. And again, I suggest everyone download the book. And if you got the time, read at least the first 2 chapters. Read those first 2 chapters. They'll definitely help you out. So we'll leave it there, Truth Seeker. Appreciate everyone who's here, signing up, helping us raise revenue. Again, the goal this year, and again, the time is now, so I hope it's sooner than later, but the goal this year is to get a physical location and at least get a couple more employees in there. If, for example, I had a secretary and a technology pro, that would be so helpful to me. If I had somebody to help handle all the messages each day and somebody who was good on the tech end, that would be a great start. So by the end of this, I don't want to say definitely by the end of the year, but hopefully in the not too distant future, we have ourselves a building and a couple employees. If we can get the revenue up to $20,000 per month, we can definitely pay 2 people 2 fair wages, have a building, and have some money to pound pavement each month, travel to cities where the biggest stories happen, try to create, you know, some energy, some excitement, some awareness. So thank you to everyone who's here. You know, we're over halfway to the goal. We can definitely get to the remainder part. And do realize this money that comes in each month, I don't really have any bills to pay, so money's getting saved. And again, that'll be the money that helps us get the building and eventually pay the employees. So everything that's not going towards that immediate goal right now, it's being archived for that future purpose. So thank you again, Truth Seeker, and really appreciate all of your support. Have a good night.